Good evening, everyone. I'm Rakhi Gautam from greytHR, the host for this Parichay webinar session today. Thank you so much for joining us on the 89th episode of the webinar series by greytHR. We have done over 200 episodes till now, and we are in second season, and this is 89th episode today. So first of all, before we start with the actual discussion, I want to thank you all sincerely for being such an active audience and for always joining our sessions, asking those questions, and making this session even more meaningful. It is because of your support that we have been able to do so many sessions. So a virtual pat on the back for all of you for being such loyal supporters and finding our sessions so meaningful. Thank you so much once again. Now, as you can see on your screen, the topic for today is navigating the next big disruption in work and what HR leaders need to know. Now, before we start with the discussion, let me quickly take you all through the agenda. As some of you are already aware, this session is divided in two parts. The first part will be the discussion with our experts, which will then be followed by an audience Q&A. So audience Q&A is where time is all yours. You can start putting across your questions, and we will be sure to take them up towards the end. Also, this session is currently being recorded. So if you happen to miss out on anything, do not worry at all. We have got you covered there. We'll be sharing a thank you mailer with all of you with the link of this session recording along with the credentials of our speakers today, so that in case you want to connect with them separately, you would be able to do that. Also, all our Parichay webinar session recordings are uploaded on greytHR's official YouTube channel under the playlist Parichay. So you can always go there and watch it later. Now, as I said earlier also, in case you feel like this session would be beneficial for any of your colleagues and friends, you can share this live link with them right now and they would be able to join us. So I think we have the quorum with us to start the session. Let me quickly take you all through what we have planned for you today. Now, as you know, the world of work is, undergoing its most transformative, change in decades, right? There's artificial intelligence, there's automation, shifting workplace expectations, and economic uncertainty are redefining how businesses operate, and how employees engage at work. Now, as HR leaders, the challenge isn't just to adapt, it's to anticipate, strategize, and lead this change. And today we'll be, covering this in detail. What you can expect from this discussion today is we'll be talking about the emerging trends, reshaping workplaces, the role of artificial intelligence and automation in the future of HR, new age workforce expectations and talent strategies, and HR's role in business resilience and transformation. So this is going to be a very exciting session, and we have with us two of the fantastic speakers joining us today, each bringing their deep expertise in the area of HR, technology, and workplace transformation. They'll share their insights with us, and we are keen to listen and learn from them. Let me quickly take you all through their profiles. We have with us Dr. Brillian SK, Executive Vice President and Chief People Officer at TimesPro. Dr. Brillian is a visionary leader and people strategist at TimesPro, steering a diverse team with passion and purpose. With over 27 years of experience across IT, BFSI, education, and logistics, his career spans roles in teaching, software development, business analysis, and HR. A doctorate in management with dual postgraduates in HR and computers, he blends technical acumen with human insight. Recognized globally for business excellence, leadership, and volunteerism, he is a Gallup certified coach, storyteller, and speaker. Thank you so much for joining us, Brillian, today. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
My pleasure, Aki. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Now, moving on, we have with us Mr. Sanjay Chandel, Global Head of People and Culture Strategic Initiatives at Joveo. He's a business leader with over 25 years of experience across industries, having worked with organizations like Taj Hotels, Siemens, AXA, WNS, Capita, and currently at Joveo, a leader in programmatic recruitment marketing. He specializes in strategy, human capital management, lean operations, and culture building, driving transformation and fostering organizational agility. With a track record of shaping high-performance teams, Sanjay is committed to unlocking potential, scaling innovation, and aligning people's strategy with business success, creating workplaces where talent thrives and businesses achieve sustainable growth in an ever evolving landscape. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Likewise, Raki. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so that was all. I'm sure you all are already excited with these leaders who has joined us today. So let's start the discussion now. But before we move on to the audience Q&A, I want to check, I want to launch a poll to understand from you all about your perspective on this discussion that we are having today. Let me just quickly launch the poll. Okay, I hope this is visible to all of you. The question is, what, according to you, will have the biggest impact on the future of work in the next 3 to 5 years? Now, this is not a right or a wrong question. This is to understand from you, your perspective on this, biggest impact that we'll be seeing in the work management, workforce, workplace in the next 5 to 3 years. We have AI and automation evolving employee expectations, skills shortage and talent mobility, hybrid and remote work models, and economic and geopolitical uncertainty. I'll keep the poll. I already see 50% of you have participated. The rest of you, please participate. We'll end the poll in the next 10 seconds. Okay, I'm ending the poll now. And let me also share the result with all of you. So it says AI and automation without any surprise there. 66% of you have chosen that this would have the biggest impact, followed by skills shortage and talent mobility and economic and geopolitical uncertainty, 10% each, evolving employee expectations, and then hybrid and remote work models at 6%. So thank you so much, everybody, for your participation in this. I'll stop sharing this now. This helps us set the context for this discussion today, right? So to start off with, Brillian, I would want to understand from you that over the few years, we have seen major disruptions, be it pandemic to the rise of hybrid work. Now, looking ahead, we understood from our audience what they think would have the biggest impact. But according to you, what are the biggest shifts that HR leaders need to prepare for the next 3 to 5 years?
No, it's good that the poll gave us the exact result that we wanted. We cannot be operating in Devanand mode singing Badle Duniya Sari Tumna Badalna. In fact, it would be the exact opposite. HR leaders will need to be wise, and I'll tell you what this wise is, and change the entire paradigm. Focus on being wise. W, we need to understand that the workplace evolution is here to stay. Thanks to COVID, we realized that hybrid working works and it is something which we will have to live with. But what is important is to remember that this will mature with time and with technological advances. AI has given us so much power to look at improvising the way hybrid working is looked at. And HR leaders will need to start thinking about equitable flexibility. Note the word equitable. It's not about giving an equal opportunity to everyone to operate from home. It needs to be focused, it needs to be need based and based on outcome based productivity. We've always worked in a mindset of saying कि यार ये ऑफिस नहीं आता है तो मतलब शायद काम नहीं करता होगा. Focus has to shift. Look at what is the outcome. Is it being delivered? We need to make it hyper personalization, very similar to what happens in the OTT channels, right? If I have watched Suits, it will show me Lincoln Lawyer, Boston Legal, because it's understanding my preferences, my needs. And we need to look at productivity over presentism. 70 hours, 90 hours, 4-day work week, doesn't matter. मांगने में किसका क्या जाता है is the logic. But I would say focus on the right aspects. Right from where we are, we need to evolve at the workplace. Then comes I, which is the topic today. It is invest in AI and automation. HR, I'll tell you, my dear friends, will need to be way, way ahead of the curve. Upskill yourself and your teams to make sure that you use AI as your partner, not let it, make you feel overpowering and make you feel, "Arey yaar, jobs जाने वाले हैं." No, jobs will not go. There will be more jobs that will be created. Uh, think about recruitment, think about analytics, think about chatbots for queries. You can use technology for anything and everything today. The only suggestion that I would have is make sure you use it in an ethical manner. AI can do everything except for thinking. And then comes the S part of the wise. I'm sure many academicians will come after me after I say this. Skills over degrees. Gone are the days when we focused on traditional degrees. Job descriptions will start to fade, and project based working and skill based hiring will see a rise. So, HR leaders should, I would say, start investing in creating and mobilizing internal talent and creating a marketplace where skills is the focus. It doesn't matter what degree you come back with. If you have the right kind of skills, if you have the right kind of attitude, I think you should be in. And then comes E, which I feel is the talk of the day today. Yesterday, I was a part of a session there, which is employee well-being. And that needs to be a strategic initiative. It cannot be just a checkbox. Mental health, wellness, burnout prevention, and overall well-being needs to become core business priorities. And I'm telling you this with experience that if we focus on employee well-being, automatically things get aligned and you can find business growth. What it requires is we need to move from thought leadership to action leadership. We need to take stock of how the HR tech stack is. We never talk of it. We talk of multiple systems, but end up using Excel. Can we redesign that? Can we redesign jobs for flexibility? Work on sensitivity because it's a matter of high sensitivity when someone gets a work from home, someone doesn't. We need to think about multi-mode operating and most important, train the managers to lead distributed teams effectively. It's not easy, it's not difficult. What is required is a shift in the mindset and a clarity to say, I will do it. Over to you.
Thank you so much for that, Brilliant. Perfectly sums it up, right? We have when we say, when we talk about HR, when we talk about workforce and how to scale our business and growth, right? People are our best bet, right? We need to
Absolutely.
focus on them. So when you say that, okay, employee well-being, when you have this right, everything will just fall into place, which is so true. So when we talk about disruptions, there are a lot of changes that happen, right? So in order to, have our teams get adapted to those changes in the right way, it's important that we take care of them in the right way. So employee well-being, you talked about artificial intelligence. That is something that we'll also be covering in the later part of our discussion today. And of course, hyper personalization. One model can't fit all. So when we talk about
So,
how we approach our employees also or teams separately, it's very important that we know that, okay, this is what is, we need to make their experiences personalized, because currently we are also connecting virtually. We have hybrid
so
now working, for 90% of organizations. So hyper personalization again is one of the core areas that we need to keep a watch out for. So thank you so much for that, Brilliant. Coming to you, Sanjay, taking pointers from Brilliant's response, we see that hybrid and remote work models have transformed workplace dynamics, and it is here to stay. Like it's not going to be. I don't think any organization, if they are currently, but they might eventually move to a hybrid setup in the coming years, considering all the situations and how the scenario is, right? So, do you see? But this is my opinion, however. But do you see this trend stabilizing, or will we continue to see more, evolution in how and where people work? And if with those evolutions, what are the things that HR leaders need to watch out for?
Absolutely. This is a great question, Rakhi. And, if you look at hybrid and remote work, certainly it is not stabilized. It is still in an evolution, but an evolution of a different kind. And, philosophically speaking, there is nothing that could stay the same. There is always an evolution. It is either improving or it is not improving. If we just quickly look at how hybrid and remote work has kind of evolved, there are three distinct phases. One was pre-COVID, then during COVID, and then post-COVID. Pre-COVID, it was not a norm. There were very few organizations which were allowing remote work on experimental basis, or they had faith in it that it would work, but not at a scale, but for some roles. So it was not a widespread phenomenon which was acceptable. Then came COVID. I think it bulldozed people towards accepting it a norm, and a lot of legacy thinking got challenged. People were forced to experiment, and then they realized, hey, I was wrong, or I found something else about this model that works. It was a revolution for a lot of people. Yeah. And during that phase for 2.5, 3 years, a lot of people said, hey, this is going to be the panacea for all my problems or most of my problems. I think for foreseeable future, we are going to be working out of remote or hybrid sort of environment. And I think there are very good brand names who actually proclaim that this is going to be their default way of working for the future. But look at what happened after a few years. They have to kind of relook at their strategy. Now we are looking at more structured way, more what do you call it, rule-based way of having this approach. What are the roles where it yields the best outcome for the employees or for the organization? What's the purpose of office? What is the definition of office? Why should people come to office? Yeah, so coming to office also has become a question when you look into the bigger scheme of things. Why? What's the purpose? So that definition also is getting rewritten. We realize that culture building, team cohesion, collaboration, innovation cannot necessarily happen to that extent if you're working remote. So there are organizations which are in a very structured sort of way asking people to come to office for a day or two, and there are clear sort of guidelines. So if we look at these three distinct stages, I assume this is going to continue to evolve. It is not going to stabilize. Forward-looking companies are going to come out with different models. There's going to be push and pull between talent and supply, and organizations will have, like employees find their best space. Yeah. So it's an evolution. I mean, let me put it this way.
No, very true. Thank you for that, Sanjay. And I, personally resonate with what you said. Of course, we saw pre-COVID, then there was during COVID, and now post-COVID, and especially with Gen Z dominating, along with millennials dominating the workforce today. I think the return to office mandate is something that's not sitting too well with them. Because see, hey, I'm able to deliver. I can work from anywhere in the world, and I'm able to deliver. So what is the point of coming to office, right? So instead of hybrid, let's just do remote. So, but then of course, there are certain, say, manufacturing industries, or there are certain roles, say you're from the finance department, or you're from the legal department, or there are some technologies that you're working on that you need to come to office for certain projects. So of course, there are always those special cases that, the teams will have to look at. But from an HR perspective, as you said, it's very important that we also hear from our, not just hear, listen to our employees' feedback as to, okay, this is my, point of view. This is why I think it's working well for me. Let me just work from here. And if there's a requirement, I might not come to office. So there's I think when we started, or we talked about adaptability, right? It's very important that not just employees, but organizations and HR, that's where the HR's role come in, that they play this, there has to be this synergy between HRs, organizations, and employees, that, okay, hey, we are okay with this. This is how we are going to, go about this, because this is our requirement at hand current. And this is the best model. But of course, as you said, this is going to be, evolving continuously as we see newer technologies. I don't want to say more pandemics in the future, but we never know. We have these uncertainties, right? So there's always more evolution that we'll be seeing in the coming year. So thank you for that, Sanjay. Now moving to Brillian. Brillian, you did touch upon well-being as one of the crucial factors in deciding any HR strategy for that matter, right? And there's also a research by McKinsey that suggests that flexibility and well-being are now top priorities for employees. Now, in your experience, in such vast experience that you have, and especially in the last 5 to 6 years, what workplace trends are you seeing in employee behavior and productivity, and how should HR leaders respond to that? Because again, there could be a pull and push factor there. So how should we go about it?
Absolutely. And it brings me to one advertisement which used to run. Aaj half day ja raha hai kya? I am sure some of you would remember a person leaving on time being questioned by so-called curious teammates. And I think it's high time we stop that and focus on outcomes. What needs to change? One, you said it, Raki, and I think We have heard this from multiple people time and again. It is flexibility. Employees will now prioritize autonomy and flexibility over a fixed schedule. Productivity will now need to be measured by results and not by the time logged in. Yes, for many organizations, timesheets may still be considered as the way for billing, but still think about how you can bring in flexibility. It's not about visibility. I have said this multiple times. Outcomes are more important. And with the new generation coming in, it's no longer the hustle culture, right? Younger workforce today reject overwork, demanding boundaries, and most important, they want to focus on their well-being. Uh, Honest answer, I never focused on what is good for me. I just said, "Kaam hai, chalo kar lete." Plate was always full. And then there is one element which I think leaders will need to start building their mindsets towards is the productivity paranoia. There is a fear that people operating from home may not be productive. And it's the Pareto principle, like always. Because 20% of the people misused it, it becomes applicable to the larger population. We feel that remote workers are less productive. But I would want to encourage, can we think about how do we manage this? And I think it was stated very clearly when even Sanjay mentioned that hybrid will continue to evolve. It's not that it will stay the way it was. You cannot just say that I'm online, so it's hybrid. No, we can bring in technology to work on it. And how do we respond? There is no one size fits all solution. And there are many possibilities, but I think what I will think about are few options. One is bring as much transparencies as possible. It should be focused on OKRs or key result areas, as we may call it. Yes, we will need to start with surveillance tools because that 20% of the population is misusing it. But we need to move towards an outcome based solution. We need to offer flexible solutions, but it has to be equitable and not equal. So all three of us on the screen today don't need to be given the same kind of flexibility. It depends on individual situations. Again, going back to the level of what we spoke about, what is it called as hyper personalization. There could be 100% virtual, there could be hybrid, and there could be in office based on the need both for the organization and for the team manager and the member. The best part about this is changing the mindset of leaders, especially team managers, because they believe that मेरे आंखों के सामने है तो ही काम होगा. I learned at a very early age when I overheard my super boss make a comment. काम बहुत अच्छा करता है लेकिन ये 6 बजे निकल जाता है. And it hit me hard. And then I had leaders like Sandra, Angelo, who would never worry about what time I was leaving in or what time I would come to office. What they focused on was, यार ये तो outcomes दे रहा है, that's it. And I think that's what we all need to do. We need to focus on building that as a culture in the organization. And if we can build that, I think we can start off with something very simple, saying no meeting Fridays, stress leaves. आज मुझे बहुत stress हो रहा है, नहीं आ रहा है, no questions asked. I was at an event yesterday and it made me think, even half Friday with no meetings, no work, only for reflections can help build a longer workspace. So I think it's time for all HR leaders and practitioners to come together and start accepting the fact that this is here to stay. Unless we change, दुनिया हमको बदल देगी.
Very true there. And you talked about cultural shift, which is so very important right now because at the end of the day, everything has to do with your mindset, right? So until you
Starts.
believe and you put this faith in your employees as an organization that, okay, my employees know what their job is and they're delivering. At the end of the day, my productivity is being delivered. They are doing amazing job. I don't need to, say hover over their heads and see, okay, what is it that you're working on,
Micromanage.
what's open. Yeah, what's open on your tab, right? So it's you very rightly talked about cultural shift, which is very important. And HR leaders now need to realize, and of course I think they also, when they sit at the CXO's table and have these strategy meetings, I think it's very important that they highlight it, because you talked about how managers sometimes are say are not very sure about this, that okay, if they are working from other places, or they are giving or if they are given too much flexibility, will they be able to deliver or not? So I think that's where, as a culture, as a workplace culture, it's the responsibility of the HR leaders to put their foot down and say, okay, this is how we can do it. Of course, there's a lot of support, there's a lot of synergy that would be required in making things possible. But I think that's a great place to start from. So thank you so much for that, Brilliant. Now we talked about flexibility, we talked about employee well-being, hybrid workplaces, what is going to be the top priorities, and employee expectations in the coming years. Now we want to focus a little on artificial intelligence and automation, because we can't talk about even the present today without talking about technology. Forget about what's going to happen in the future, right? Today we are having this conversation at 5. OpenAI might launch something else, and we need to be okay. What is this now? What is it that we need to experiment with? So I'll launch a poll just to understand from our audience also about their views, about their perspective on adopting artificial intelligence in HR. So the question is, what's your biggest concern when it comes to adopting AI in HR? Is it loss of human connection, data privacy and ethics, lack of skills to leverage artificial intelligence, resistance to change, or no concern at all? Because what we know as a fact is that today 85%, again, I can't quote numbers, but I'm sure majority of the organizations would be using artificial intelligence in not just their technology projects, but also in HR. So now we can adopt, but there are of course many concerns that rise. Employees might feel, first question HR would ask themselves is AI going to replace me? I'm going to do this implementation. After that, I might know that I might not be in the system, and this tool would be taking care of everything. So of course there are these apprehensions, and we would want to deep dive into it and understand on this more. So I'll keep this for another 10 seconds, and then we'll have the next question. I would urge each one of you in the audience to participate, and I hope you're finding the session useful. If you have any questions, any feedback, any experience that you also want to highlight, you can put that in the Q&A panel, and we'll be taking them up very soon. Okay, I will end the poll now and share the result with all of you. So we have 36% that says data privacy and ethics, which is again very valid. Then 27% saying loss of human connection. We talked about this. 18% lack of skills to leverage AI, which is again something that we touched upon. Upskilling and reskilling is very, very essential in today's digital era. Then there is 12% no concern, 7% resistant to change. Now, as I said in the beginning, first of all, thank you for participating. And this was not a right or a wrong question. This helps us understand your perspective. And all of these, if somebody asks me, I would say that all of these are my concerns. Maybe the rating would be, okay, top concern is this, and then, that. So let me just quickly come to the question now to you, Sanjay. We have seen how artificial intelligence and automation are rapidly changing HR processes. People are using HRMS, we have employee engagement tools, we have ESS portals, chat support, all of that is available. Now, what are the biggest opportunities, first of all? And along, I think when we say challenges, opportunity follows, or when we say opportunities, challenges follow, right? So both biggest opportunities and challenges that HR leaders should be aware of when they are integrating artificial intelligence into their workflows?
Right. This is again a very, very great question, and of a lot of importance to all of us within HR and within organizations as a whole. See, if you look at within HR, I think all progressive organizations, they embarked upon this journey of upgrading their tech stack in last 7-8 years. And that was made possible because the cost of computing was coming down rapidly. There were newer players which were coming up within the localized markets who could understand your needs and help you either with the point solutions or help you with the enterprise sort of tech stack. And I think all organizations were on this journey of going for a more evolved and more advanced tech stack. So there was a bit of a linear sort of progression, evolution that was already underway. Now came AI. Now AI kind of it expanded the boundaries of what you could possibly do with your existing tech stack, or even if you don't have tech stack and you have to start afresh. I think there are very interesting possibilities. Now, it also goes to show that the adoption has been very, very rapid. So I was going through a Stanford AI Index report, and it says that adoption in European countries and within US has been slow. I think there it is around 38, 35, 40%. But if you look at Asian countries, it is high in 80s. Yeah, and we are absolutely open to AI and automation revolution. Yeah, and because there is a huge sort of a range of opportunities that it provide you, from hire to retire solutions, even post retire and before hiring, to leverage AI. Now, see, I wouldn't say this is the best use case or this is where AI can help organizations the best, because I think eventually within 1 or 2 years you would see it wouldn't just proliferate or encroach, it would become a mainstay. It would embed as a part of your tech stack, whether you like it or you don't. You will be forced to adopt it. Yeah. Few things that I see early adopters within HR. One is your talent acquisition. Talent acquisition, if I divide it into something called as, candidate flow, which is sourcing part, and then is candidate management. Once person comes into a pipeline or your funnel, and then how you kind of take it to uh, until the offer or joining. Huge possibilities. Reaching out, personalization. Brillian has been speaking about. AI has made it possible for us to reach to the right candidate at the right time, at a right cost, at a for the right jobs. That is now becoming possible. Resume screening is becoming more and more automated. Of course, there are risks. Bias amplification, could be a challenge. What that model looks like could be a challenge. But of course, you'll have to balance that. So it takes away a lot of grunt work from the recruiters. Piles of CVs they have to go through, and sometimes not being able to do that job effectively. You can do it very effectively with good, if you have a good model without bias. So huge efficiencies on that side. On candidate side, I think candidates in India hasn't traditionally been treated well. Sorry for making that sort of statement, because we are a talent surplus country. If you even look at the talent index report published in end of 24, I think by Deloitte, you would see that India has the surplus talent in almost every field. So we believe that, candidates are there. If not this, we'll hire someone else, but we owe them consumer grade experience. So AI can make that possible with the chat bots, with the right personalization, engagement, interview feedback, timely sort of updates. So huge sort of, potential there. Onboarding processes can be made seamless. You just put your workflow and things will go out at a right time. I think that's another area. Then you look at once person joins, performance management, the feedback, look at the trending in terms of how person is performing, and converting that data into L&D, your personalized learning journeys. Again, huge potential. So I think every sphere within HR is going to get impacted, and positively, I would say, impacted. If you ask the challenges, I won't. I think this crowd, the people here, I would believe in the wisdom of crowd, if I could say so. All the three top reasons they mentioned, I have just taken it down. Loss of human connection definitely is one of the biggest risks. You can dehumanize so-called interaction, and you start relying on AI. And we are a high context culture. India is a high context culture. Even people have answer. They want to talk to someone. If they can find it in HRIS portal, they find it comfortable to pick up a phone and speak to someone in HR. They, hey, can you explain me my salary reduction, or, how this is happening, or, what is happening with this new role. Other one was data privacy. I think this is another big risk. People are adopting it. If they don't have, I think Brillian mentioned about it, ethical use of AI is absolutely must. And then lack of skills. We may not have people, who are digitally savvy. So organizations also owe, some responsibility to train people on how to adopt these technologies and use them effectively.
Very true. Thank you so much for giving such a perfect answer to this question, because this perfectly sums up how there are so many opportunities, but we need to be very careful as to how we are implementing it, and ensure that we are training our people onto how to use AI ethically. You talked about talent. We have, say, from hire to retire, from talent acquisition to onboarding to performance management, to there are these employee engagement tools which are there to keep, checking the pulse of your employees, see how they are doing. The feedback mechanism is, a 360-degree feedback mechanism is there. It's not just, okay, one-way communication which is happening. Then there are, so a lot of things that we can do, of course, with artificial intelligence. And we should be, as you said, this is something that will become a must in another 18 months or so, because we can't not adopt AI at this, time and era. So of course that is there. But yes, as you also highlighted the challenges, we need to be very careful in our way, in our approach to leveraging AI, and being very ethical about it. So thank you so much for that, Sanjay. Now coming to you, Brilliant, just taking a cue from this, we talked about, and we also saw on the poll, right? One of the challenge or the concern was that too much dependency on technology, will that take away the loss of human connection? Like there would be no human connection. We'll just be chatting with bots and asking, okay, where can I find this policy, or what is the goal metric right now for my quarter, for this quarter, and all those things, right? Now, and I think this is a very fair, valid conversation that people have today also, that we need to strike a balance between technology and personalization. We can't be too dependent on technology, because as you also quoted in the beginning, that artificial intelligence or technology for that matter can't do the thinking, right? And when it comes to human resources, specifically, it's about human relationships. And we can't just take human out of human resources. So how can we strike this balance? If you can share some practical, tips with our HR leaders today and HR managers who can then guide their managers and team at large.
Thank you. And it's very easy. Just think about a time when calculators came in. People said, "Arey job jayega." Then came computers. Said, "Arey job jayega." Then came what we call now as AI. "Arey job jayega." Then 1st November 2023, ChatGPT came in and said, "Arey baap re, ab to 100% job jayega." January 20th, 2025, DeepSeek came in. ChatGPT bola, "Mera job chala gaya." Right? There is no easy solution to all of this. As we've discussed, and both Sanjay and you have said it time and again, technology, people, circumstances will continue to evolve. There is no easy solution, but I can tell you it is not impossible. And we need to start small. I have always believed, coming from a tech background, that tech is essential, but touch is critical. We are human beings, and it's the touch that makes us feel connected and gives us that energy. I've done so many virtual sessions, but I prefer an in-person session, because you get to greet people, you shake hands, you give them a hug, a high five, and that energy is contagious. So I would say integrate the tech with the touch. And I have used a acronym for it. It is called as TETE, TETE. Tech for efficiency and touch for empathy. We need both. We need efficiency and we need empathy. Let's use AI, and I think Sanjay mentioned it, for all the mundane, transactional, routine tasks, payroll processing, screening, onboarding elements. Usme you don't need to put too much of efforts, but reserve the human judgment for coaching, conflict resolution, career development. And I don't think I'll be comfortable if a computer algorithm tells me that this is how I need to grow up my career. I would prefer probably a mentor or my boss tell me that, what, doing great here. You need to work on this. This is where you can reach. Then I would say leverage data to tailor experiences. We've spoken about hyper personalization, but it's very similar to personalized L&D, but maintain that face-to-face connections. And I will tell you from experience, online coaching sessions may work, but when you come there, talk about a person, the growth, and build that connect through that even one contact session, it is great. The bottom line for all of this is ethical guardrails are critical. We need to ensure that AI tools are bias free. We all know AI uses data which have been created by humans, and humans always have biases. And it is very difficult to remove that bias, and there is a bias that always exists. So what we need to do is we need to build a bridge between AI and the human intervention, so that the chunk of what we would call as gada majuri in Hindi, or the donkey's work, to be done by AI, and it can give you ideas, insights, and thoughts which you can pick and choose. Just because AI tells you that this is wrong doesn't mean it is wrong. It is probably looking at a part of the data. There is something else which you can see in person which you're not there. I think Sanjay spoke about chatbots, but I think chatbots can probably answer standard, typical questions. But when there is a complexity, how will you solve it? It will not be able to solve it. If you have ever tried that WhatsApp chat which comes in, you type something which is out of question, it says try again, and it takes you back to the same old questions once again. And things like, sorry to use this, but harassment, mental, physical abuse, it is common. Chatbots or AI cannot help you there. It will require human intervention. So I think as HR partners to business and to the entire ecosystem of what I would call as a workplace, we need to understand to balance emotions and the need for technology. If we are able to do that, see, empathy can work hand in hand, tech for efficiency, touch for empathy. Over to you.
Very true. I'm going to take that as one of the key takeaways from this conversation today. Tay, tech for efficiency and touch for empathy, because so very true, right? When we talk about striking a balance between technology and human connection, it's important that humans, as you said, that there are these mundane tasks, the administrative tasks, those can be taken care of by your, technology, the bot that you have built, the tool that you have built. However, these conversations that really matter, that will define your workplace culture, it's very important that you go and speak to your, team members, have those conversations, exchange ideas. That's where the real impact comes from, and that is something that we would also want to see. That okay, if I'm working in this company, how am I driving an impact, and how is that impact being, I'm being able to deliver that? How is that happening? Through connections, through conversations, through
Absolutely.
exchange of ideas. So very true, and thank you so much for that, Brilliant.
Thanks.
Now, we are coming to the end of, towards the end of the session, but we do have the audience Q&A with us. We'll take that up. I can only see one question right now, so I would urge everybody to start putting their questions now, and we'll be taking them up very soon. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions from my end. That would be last, and then we'll jump onto the audience Q&A. So anybody from the audience, if you have any questions, just click on the Q&A option. You'll be able to type in your question, and we'll take them. Okay, so, Sanjay, we talked about, when we say technology and we say that there are new things that will come up, new changes that we need to be prepared of. One thing that can make that happen is, of course, upskilling and reskilling. And when we talk about technological advancements, we can't help but talk about upskilling and reskilling, right? So, what are some innovative ways that companies can ensure that okay, by doing this, your workforce will be future proof? Of course, more evolutions will keep taking place, but again, to just be on the safer side, to have those, to be ready for anything, any change that might happen. What are some of the ways that you would suggest companies to adapt?
This is again a very, very good, very, very pertinent question. Learning. So learning will define our earning in this scenario. And I think there are different ways of actually putting it across. If you look at, so let me just answer from organization's perspective, and I'll kind of, keep it very succinct and brief. Organizations will have to do their skills audit. It's very important that there has to be a mechanism for you to know what are the skills that you have for your present requirement, what are the skills that you would need in, short and medium term. I don't think we can talk about long term. Nobody knows what happens in long term. So skill audit is important. Then you also have to do skill inventory for different roles within different functions. What skills do you already have? What is the skill gap for present requirements? What is the skill gap in future? And then third step is, how are you going to fill that gap? Are you going to build or buy? Are you going to invest in people and take them through their journey, or are you going to acquire that skill? Acquiring skill is always expensive. You can never be sure about the loyalty of people, their so-called longevity within the organization. So there has to be a way for you to build a very robust learning program within the organization. Have a proper sort of a roadmap where people understand what are the adjacent skills that I can learn, that I already have, I can learn, and I can, make my portfolio or my sort of skill stack, if I could call it, more end to end. And for that, I think today learning is the easiest thing to do. because everything is available on net, free of cost. Some great organizations also provide some brilliant tools or programs for you. So you have to first know that being curious, continuous learner is absolutely essential. Organizations will have to, at a high level, have their roadmap and then percolate it down to what it means to their learning strategy at an individual level. Individuals have to be very open, curious, continuous learner. They can't be stuck in the same sort of legacy skill stack that they have acquired for last 10 years. Yeah, so this is going to be absolutely important. Keep some time aside. There has to be knowledge sharing platform within the organization, personalized learning journeys. Learning conversation needs to become a part of the organization. You have to start quantifying the impact of that learning on new projects. Move people, rotation, internal talent market that Brillian, I think, spoke about, is absolutely important. Yeah. So use all your resources to build organization or learning organization. Organization has a role to play at a strategic level. Individual levels, people will have to kind of break, their old mold and start on this journey.
Thank you so much for that, Sanjay. Very apt. And considering that we are living in an era which is ever evolving, right? How you can, the first step has to be that you keep evolving yourself also along with it. You need to also evolve with the changes that are coming up, right? So as you said, we need to create, continuous learning should come from within also. It shouldn't be just HRs and L&D managers, running behind us saying that, oh, you need to complete this course. Hey, you need to upskill yourself. It's also something that should come from within, because that is where, this genuine passion of learning and also just to be at the top of the things will be there. So it's very important. And you talked about how you can then implement that learning, that skill in the projects that you're working on. So thank you for highlighting that. You also talked about how including, some AI, artificial intelligence or technology into these L&D programs can also make it more personalized. We can have these personalized growth journey where I can see that, okay, this is how I started. These are the learning gaps and these are the skills gaps. And this is how I can, upskill and reskill myself. So thank you so much for all those insights that you shared, Sanjay. Today's conversation have been great. I loved having these, loved listening to both of you, the insights that you shared. Very practical, very actionable. It wasn't something that, we talk about, okay, you know what, this can happen. But this is actually something that can be implemented. These are the real conversations, that we as HR leaders, as employers, as managers, we need to have with our employees. So thank you so much for all the insights that you shared. I can see a lot of reactions and hearts and claps coming in. So thank you to our audience also for sharing those reactions with us. Now, before we move on to the audience Q&A, I know we have some time left, very less time left, but quickly before I move on to the audience Q&A, I just have one last question to each one of you, just to tell me that, okay, you know what, as you know, this is my one key takeaway for all the HR leaders who are present in this call today on this, that, okay, in order to be ready for the next disruption, this is what you can do. Of course, we talked in, length, but if you would just want to conclude that with one key takeaway, each one of you.
So I'll go first.
Sure. Yes.
Thank you. So I would say, whatever you want to do, if you look at it as a checklist activity, it will never get done. So I would suggest that whether it is AI or something new that will come in, build learning as a core value, not as a perk. Now, if you're able to do that, what happens is it's ingrained in my blood, it is internalized, and everything that I do comes out of that, what I would say, core value from within. It is not dunya ko dikhane wala chehra. It's not a facade. So make learning a core value, not a perk, and I think you should be there.
Thank you so much for that, Brilliant. Very apt. Sanjay, you would want to add to that?
Actually, after what Brillian has said, obviously, I don't think there is any next best answer. What Brillian said, I think I will emphasize on that. Be open to learning. Be open to learning. It's fantastic time to be alive in this era. There are a lot of things that are possible. A lot of things that you earlier thought you cannot do, you can possibly do on your own, contribute more meaningfully in your roles, in your personal lives. leverage all the developments that is happening around, but it would happen only when there is that learning sort of mindset.
Thank you so much for that, Sanjay. Very apt. And thanks to both of you for sharing such great insights with us. I can see people getting excited with the reactions. So if you have any questions, you can put it on the Q&A panel. We have 5 minutes. I'll quickly take all the questions which are there, going one by one. So the first question is from Rachita. My reporting manager is struggling to adapt to the hybrid work culture. While I understand his concern that some employees may not work as diligently from home, how can I effectively help him see the bigger picture and encourage a more balanced and trusting approach towards hybrid work? So I think this is something that most of us would resonate with. So either of you would want to take this one up. We have already spoken about it, but if we would want to just elaborate.
Sure, Brillian, you want to go ahead? All right. So see, I would suggest you to first look at what is your organization's policy. Yeah, because a lot of things gets driven down from there. Your managers take a very so-called very, very tough stand if organization is gravitating towards some policy. So if your organization allows you to have remote or hybrid kind of work environment, then of course you have a policy. You have a conversation and ask your manager that what are his or her concerns, why he or she thinks that it is not going to work. Yeah. So having a very open, meaningful conversation can probably help that other person to see your point of view. Do it on a project basis. Do it on a proof of concept basis, just to say that you're not asking it for forever. Just see what happens if I go, and make sure that proof of concept is successful. And that will be a good way for you to kind of then make that arrangement more sort of permanent, if I could say so. Yeah. If your company doesn't have a policy, then you have to find a forum where whether it's a town halls or your suggestions or your open discussions with your CEOs or functional leaders, ask them in a very diplomatically respectful way, put forward your point of view and have a policy in place. Get them thinking about it. It might not be easy battle to win for certain organizations, yeah, but you can always start. It might not be a perfect answer, but it probably will help you start somewhere.
Definitely resonates with us. Thank you so much for that, Sanjay. And I hope that helps you out as well, Rachita. Moving on to the next question, which is from an anonymous attendee. The question is, what steps can HR leader take to upskill their workforce to stay ahead of disruption? Brilliant. Would you want to take this one up?
Sure. In fact, I was typing it out, but I'll read it in the
Sure.
interest of time. But what I would say is, charity begins at home. It's not. It's not that you can just dictate something to others and say, "Tum ye karo." Everyone looks up to leaders who live to what they say, practice what you preach. We've heard it since childhood. But unless you are able to do it on your own, what are you doing about investing time? Personally, when I look at life, I have a slot in my calendar which I have kept for lunchtime, which is half an hour. I finish my lunch in about 5 to 7 minutes. I don't eat much. And the rest that I have, almost about 15 to 20 minutes, I spend on LinkedIn learning. And every single day, I make sure that I am learning something different. I learned something about Google Analytics. I learned something about marketing. Now, what happens is what I'm trying to do is not become a marketeer. I'm not trying to get into their shoes. I am trying to be what I would call as relevant in the age where things are changing so fast. The lines between what an HR does, what a marketeer does, there would be a day when HR may be required to play all the roles. Are you ready for that? Start with yourself and make sure you put it in your KRA. And let me be blunt, my dear friends, unless you make it a part of their KRAs, people are reluctant. Make sure that learning becomes a culture. I go back to what I said. If it is not a core value to you, it will only remain as a perk and ठीक है यार 35 certificate कर दिया फायदा क्या हुआ? Nothing. Focus on things that matter. Start small. That will create an impact.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that, Brilliant. Moving on to the next question, which is how do you measure the effectiveness and ROI of AI-powered HR initiatives?
I can take that up, Rakhi. Do as is analysis. I'm giving you very project management structured sort of way to go about it. What is as is state, where you haven't yet deployed AI, and look at time, cost, quality. I think this is so-called the iron triangle of project management. What is the quality of that task? What is the cost and what's the time that it takes? Map that and deploy the AI intervention, and then see after a month or two, has needle moved on those three parameters or not? I think this could be a good way to start.
Thank you for that, Sanjay. Really helps. Moving on to the next question, which is, how will you validate someone who is working remotely in an IT firm without being too picky?
इसका जवाब तो खुदा भी नहीं दे सकता दोस्त. The answer is, it's so easy to fool technology. It's so easy. We are Indians. We are known for jugaad. I think we have seen that viral video where a person who has a monitoring tool installed in his or her laptop has used a fan to make sure that the mouse moves continuously so that the computer believes it's working. So it's not easy. But what we can do, as I said, why do you want to be so picky about saying कि यार वो आज काम कर रहा है 2 घंटे काम कर रहा है या 3 घंटे काम. Give them output based tasks which वो बोलेगा मुझे 2 दिन लगेगा. Let him or her come back. Let them come back with 3 days. But once you start seeing outcomes, I think the focus on saying कि remote employees, especially in IT, doesn't work. Yes, remember Pareto principle. 20% will always screw up the happiness of every line manager, every HR professional, and every CEO. I have faced instances where I'm just taking the names. Raki gave the interview, Sanjay came to work, and in the background, Brillian was working. Right now, this is also a reality. But how do we tackle it? Is when you are put in front of the team for sessions. We made it mandatory that you come on video. Why? Because it gives me a sense of comfort, at the same time tells me that you're the one who are talking. And when we did that, we realized that when Sanjay was talking, it was not Sanjay. And the manager who interviewed said, "Arey yaar, ye to face alag lag raha hai." And from behind, Brillian was talking. So all of these can be managed, but I'm saying don't get carried away by the semantics. Just focus on what is the end goal. The end goal is productive output that you want. You are able to do it. I think we need to accept the fact that many of them will moonlight, whether we like it or not, whether we make it formal or not. Moonlighting will continue. There are people who are opting for remote or hybrid because they get to moonlight. Accept it. I would say adapt to the circumstances, adopt to the new style, and become adept at saying, "Chalo, ऐसा है, ऐसा हम लोग आगे चलेंगे." Thank you.
Very true. Thank you so much for that, Brillian. We have covered all the questions. Some of the questions Brillian has already typed in as the response. There's one last question, which is from Caroline. What is the best strategy to retain employees? So, Sanjay, would you want to take this one up?
Yes, I can take that up. So I think best strategy to retain employee, it constitutes of 3 or 4, maybe more factors. Everything has to come together to make it a best strategy. But if I have to kind of talk about a few things, one, it starts much before person joins you. Yeah, it starts with your job description, who you are hiring, why you are hiring. Yeah, do you have a roadmap for that person for next 3, 4, 5, 6 years? So all that needs to be in place. Then your hiring processes have to be right. Is it a cultural fit? Do demands of that role and organization culture and person's so-called personality makeup, does it fit that role? Yeah. So once that has happened, at least 50% battle is won. If you have hired someone who is aligned, I think that quadrant is taken care of. After that, you have to take care of them well. There has to be, treat them like human beings, help them grow, give them opportunities, give them feedback, mentoring, coaching, and all that you need to do. I think it's not very difficult. Yeah, but the first part generally is difficult. Everyone focuses on the second part. Once person is there, want to do everything. But if you haven't hired the right person, if that is misfit, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to retain. If my main motivation to join organization is to get 3 jumps, 3 promotions within 3 years, and every 15 or 10% additional hike that I will get, I will leave, it's going to be different. You've hired someone with a very different motivation. Yeah. So not a very straightforward answer, but yeah, you have to look at both the quadrants, pre-hiring and after person has joined.
Right. No, completely true. And thank you so much for that, Sanjay. Because, with everything, first step is what gives or have the lasting impression, I would say. So when you know that, okay, you have designed the JD perfectly, when you make that first call to that person, what is the experience that you're giving them? All that, start creating that experience for that employee. And then they would rather want to stay or not, the retention that comes into the picture. So thank you so much for that. I think you've also answered the question, which is from above there. How can we attract best talent in the market? By doing the right thing. So thank you for that. In case you want to add anything to that, or I think that's
I think principles won't change. These are pretty much the same.
great. Thank you so much. There's one last question from Pushpa, which I would also want to, listen from you. Then we'll definitely end the session. In case there are any more questions, we'll take them up offline. But this one question, which is from Pushpa to each one of you, what helped you the most in your HR career growth? Just want to sum up this conversation.
This is obviously I was not prepared for this question. I'll have to reflect. Something that comes to top of my mind is I think it was planning as well as being prepared to take risk. Whatever I could
Right.
cover, I covered that with planning. Whatever I think I cannot, it was a very calculated risk that I took on certain things, whether it was a career move or it was moving from one location or picking up different assignments or doing something that I have never done at the risk of failing and looking like a fool. So that was a risk part. Planning part was, what skills do I need? How do I prepare, equip myself, to be able to address those gaps well? Yeah. So planning and risk taking, I think this is how I would look at it.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Sanjay. Brilliant. Your
Yeah,
response
so
here.
my journey is very interesting. I started off as a faculty, went on to software development, then became a pre-sales analyst, did some database management, and then finally landed up in HR. So if I look at how things have helped me in the HR career is, I never said no to anything which was pushed across as a challenge to me. I still remember one incident. I will not take the name of the company, but it's very relevant and it's transformed me as an individual as well. Where the CEO just came in and there was a fire in the recruitment. I was not managing recruitment at that point of time. He said we need all hands on deck, and we said okay, fine. And when the CEO says that all hands on deck, you feel so empowered, feeling अरे यार CEO बोल रहा है मतलब we have to do it. And on top of it, he said, अगर तुम लोग ये करोगे, he told me this, I will give you a holiday in Mauritius. And I got very angry. I said, what are you paying me for then? Right? So sometimes you need to not look at what are the benefits, but think about what you can contribute to the organization. Now, on hindsight, I say I should have accepted that Maldives holiday. It would have actually enhanced my, work-life balance. But jokes apart, the thing is, opportunities will come unannounced, and sometimes it will come in the most ugliest form that you can see it, and that can be a transformation in your journey. And today I can say with pride that I am not ashamed to go out there, stand outside the Seeps Gate, which is a big location in Mumbai, and hand out those business cards and say we are hiring for C++ and Java. If you're interested, walk. Today you if you ask the people to do that, they'll just look up you, say frown and say ये तो हमारे JD में नहीं. So don't worry, take that opportunity, you will learn something, and I have grown, so maybe it will work for you as well.
Thank you so much for that, Brilliant. Thank you to both of you. This was a wonderful discussion today. I see one feedback from Asha Priya that I would want to read out. Today's session is very useful and great insights. Thank you both Brilliant and Sanjay for their wonderful gyan. So thank you so much, Brilliant and Sanjay. It was a pleasure to host both of you. And to all our audience also, thank you so much for joining in, asking these questions, participating in our poll. This all helps us make the session more relevant and exciting. In case you have any more questions that you would want us to ask, or anything related to HR, payroll, labor laws, you can connect with us on this Grey Tribe community that you can see on the screen. It's a knowledge sharing platform. We have over 9,000 professionals there. They would be able to help you out with any questions that you have, or exchange ideas. As I said in the beginning, the recording of the session will be shared with each one of you, and this will also be available on our YouTube channel, so you can always go there, watch it. And of course, I'm sure that a lot of you are keen to connect with Brillian and Sanjay personally. We'll be sharing their email IDs with all of you. You can have that chat later too. So thank you so much once again, first of all, Brillian and Sanjay, for this great, great conversation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raki. Thank you, Sanjay. That's fun.
Thank you, all the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us. And we are looking forward to hosting you very soon in our next session, which is on 22nd April. The invites will be sent to all of you by next week. So please be sure to register and attend this. Thank you so much and have a lovely evening ahead.